What if one day you woke up with the unsettling feeling that the life you've built isn't truly yours? That every decision you've made, every belief you hold, and even the desires driving you didn't originate from your true self, but were implanted by society, education, external expectations, and fears you didn't even know existed? Pause for a moment and ask yourself, how much of who you are is truly authentic? And how much is an identity crafted to fit in, to be accepted, to avoid rejection? How often do you feel like you're playing a role, following a script someone else wrote for you? Today, we'll delve into one of Carl Jung's most revolutionary ideas. Life doesn't truly begin until you discover who you are at the deepest core of your being. But what does it really mean to find yourself? Is it just an exercise in introspection, or is there a far deeper transformative process behind it? Stay until the end, because as we unravel the hidden forces shaping your identity, you'll discover why most people never truly know themselves, and most importantly, you'll learn how to break free from this invisible prison. We'll explore how social conditioning might be manipulating your decisions without your notice, why your unconscious sabotages your life, and what steps you can take to break those mental chains. Pay close attention, because the final revelation we'll uncover is the most shocking of all. It won't just change how you see yourself, it will completely transform how you live and relate to the world. Carl Gustav Jung was more than a psychologist. He was an explorer of the mysteries of the unconscious, a pioneer who left us a map to decipher who we truly are. Today, we'll journey through that map together. While most psychologists of his era believed mental health depended on adapting to social norms, Jung saw things entirely differently. For him, true psychological growth wasn't about fitting in, but embarking on a journey toward individuation, the process of becoming the most authentic version of oneself. But here's the harsh reality: almost no one walks this path. Most people spend their lives trapped in an identity they didn't consciously build, but was shaped by others' expectations. They live by a script imposed by society, never questioning whether their actions truly resonate with who they are at their core. They seek external validation, convinced that happiness depends on recognition, success, or fitting into a predefined mold. Yet, deep down, there's always a sense of emptiness, a quiet restlessness that won't fade, an inner voice whispering, "This isn't enough. Something's missing." Jung had a clear conviction: authentic life begins when we stop running from ourselves. But before discussing what it truly means to find yourself, we must first understand what prevents most people from achieving it. From the moment we're born, we're shaped by a system that labels us, assigns us a name, an identity, and a set of rules about what's acceptable and what's not. We learn which behaviors are rewarded and which are punished. But this process happens so subtly and gradually that we rarely stop to question it. We adapt, conform, and, without realizing it, begin repressing parts of ourselves that don't align with what's expected of us. Now think back to your childhood. Were there moments when you expressed something genuine only to receive disapproving looks? Do you remember times when being yourself felt insufficient? Maybe you were told to be more realistic, that you were too sensitive, or that certain emotions and desires were inappropriate. Over time, you learned to repress those parts of yourself, hiding them deep within where no one could see them. And in doing so, you began building a mask. Jung called this mask the persona, the image we show the world, the identity we adopt to fit in, to be accepted, to navigate society without friction. At first glance, the persona seems necessary. It helps us manage relationships and function in different environments. But here's the problem: the more we identify with this mask, the further we drift from our true essence. We come to believe we are the image we project, forgetting that beneath it lies something far deeper and more authentic. And this is where the flip side of the coin emerges: the shadow. If the persona is what we show the world, the shadow is everything we hide from it. Within the shadow lie our fears, repressed desires, insecurities, but also talents and strengths we once denied for fear of rejection. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It doesn't vanish because you choose not to look. In fact, the more you repress it, the more influence it holds over you without you even noticing. The shadow remains in the depths of your mind, operating in secret, influencing your thoughts, emotional reactions, and how you relate to the world. What you reject within yourself doesn't disappear. It manifests in ways we rarely notice. One of the most common ways it does this is through projection. Have you ever felt an irrational aversion towards someone without knowing exactly why? Have certain attitudes in others bothered you disproportionately? Jung believed that when something in others deeply disturbs us, it's because, deep down, we're seeing a reflection of hidden aspects of ourselves. What we deny within our own shadow often reappears externally, disguised in others' behavior. But here's the most revealing part. Within the shadow lies the key to discovering your true self. Everything you've repressed, your desires, fears, impulses, even talents and strengths you learned to hide, are not enemies to fear. They're essential pieces of your being that you've left behind. Jung understood something fundamental. Psychological growth isn't about eliminating the shadow, but integrating it. It means daring to look into your own unconscious, confronting what you've denied, and reclaiming control over your identity. When you do this, you access a level of authenticity, power, and freedom few ever experience. This is the true start of the journey, a path not for the faint of heart, because it will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. Are you prepared to discover who you truly are and free yourself from the illusions that have defined you until now? Most people believe they already know who they are. They identify with their name, job, culture, past experiences. But what if I told you your identity is far more complex than you imagine? That the you believe in is just the tip of the iceberg, a superficial construct barely scratching the surface of your true essence. Carl Jung had a fascinating vision. Within each person lies a hidden world, a vast, complex internal dimension filled with forgotten memories, repressed emotions, unrecognized desires, and unexplored potential. The key to discovering who you truly are isn't about building a new identity, but unearthing what you've hidden from yourself. Now pause and reflect. Have you ever felt an inexplicable longing for something more? A sense that a larger, more authentic version of you is waiting to emerge? That's not just imagination, it's the voice of your unconscious calling you to awaken. Jung called this process individuation. He believed true fulfillment isn't found in fitting into external expectations, but in integrating all parts of our being, the good and the bad, the light and the dark. But here's the major obstacle. Before we can integrate these aspects, we must face them. And this is where most people stop. Facing yourself isn't easy. It requires looking directly at the parts of your identity you've denied, the uncomfortable truths you'd rather ignore. This process demands questioning beliefs you've always taken for granted, challenging your fears, and confronting the internal conflicts that have shaped your life without your awareness. Think about this. How often do we avoid silence? How often do we immerse ourselves in work, social media, constant entertainment, anything to avoid being alone with our thoughts? This perpetual distraction isn't random. It's a defense mechanism, a way to escape the uncomfortable questions lurking beneath the surface. But the truth is, no matter how much we try to run, those hidden aspects of ourselves don't disappear. They remain, manifesting in unexpected ways. Anxiety, procrastination, unsatisfying relationships, or that persistent feeling of being lost, like something's missing. Jung believed our unconscious speaks to us constantly. The problem is we've learned to ignore its messages. However, when we start paying attention, everything changes. We begin to see patterns, realize how our deepest wounds influence our decisions, how repressed desires shape our behavior, and how, paradoxically, what we fear most holds the most important lessons of our lives. Let's take a clear example: fear of rejection. Many people live in fear of being judged or abandoned. To avoid rejection, they seek others' approval, avoid conflict, silence their deepest thoughts, and mold their behavior to fit in, sacrificing authenticity in the name of harmony. But pause and ask, where does this fear truly come from? Is it just a reaction to others' opinions, or does it stem from something deeper? Perhaps an old wound from childhood, a time when you felt invisible, inadequate, or unworthy of love. Jung argued this fear isn't merely a passing emotion, it's a manifestation of the shadow, a repressed part of our being that's never been fully acknowledged. And as long as it remains hidden in darkness, it will control our actions from the shadows, influencing every decision we make without our awareness. But here's the most powerful part. When we finally dare to confront these hidden aspects of ourselves, they lose their grip on our lives. Imagine living without fear of judgment, expressing what you truly think without hesitation, making decisions based on what resonates with you, not others' expectations. That's individuation. It's not about becoming someone new, but reclaiming all the parts of yourself you've left behind and becoming the most complete, authentic version of who you truly are. But the big question is, how do we begin this process? How can we uncover the unconscious forces shaping our lives? Jung believed one of the most powerful ways to access the unconscious is through symbols, dreams, and deep introspection. He saw dreams as a way our deeper self communicates important messages, revealing hidden aspects of our psyche. For him, dreams weren't mere products of imagination, but windows into who we truly are. Opportunities to discover what we've repressed or forgotten over time. He also emphasized the value of creative expression, art, music, writing, and other forms of personal exploration, as powerful avenues to connect with hidden parts of ourselves. However, perhaps the most fundamental step is this: awareness. When you start questioning why you think, react, or hold deep beliefs without scrutiny, you're already on the path to change. The moment you decide not to flee discomfort and face these challenges with curiosity, you begin reconnecting with your true self. The reality is, most people live their entire lives as strangers to themselves. They follow routes others have mapped for them, unaware they have the power to choose a different path. They repress who they truly are, not realizing their greatest strength lies in accepting and embracing their totality. But you don't have to be part of that majority. You have the power to free yourself from imposed limitations, shed layers of fear and conditioning that have kept you from experiencing life to its fullest, and move toward the wholeness of who you are, unapologetically. In the next part, we'll explore something even more revelatory: the hidden archetypes living within you. These ancestral patterns, deeply rooted in your mind, hold the key to unlocking your full potential. What you're about to discover could completely transform how you understand yourself. If the path to self-knowledge were as easy as making a decision, we'd all live aligned with our true nature. But as we've seen, this process is far more intricate. It's not just about deciding who we want to be, but exploring the forces that shaped us, facing the parts of ourselves we've rejected, and learning to integrate them into a genuine, complete identity. Now, a fundamental question arises: why are we drawn to certain behaviors, desires, or fears? Why do we repeat the same mistakes or fall into cycles when trying to change? Jung's answer was revolutionary. He proposed that within every human being exist universal patterns, deeply rooted psychological structures affecting our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we rarely fully grasp. He called these patterns archetypes. According to Jung, archetypes are collective, primal images residing in what he termed the collective unconscious, a part of our psyche shared by all humanity, inherited from our ancestors' experiences. These archetypes profoundly influence our personal identity, relationships, and worldview. Think of the stories that endure across time: the hero's journey, the wise mentor, the dark villain, the pure child. These characters don't just exist in myths, religions, or literature. They're reflected in our dreams. They're not mere inventions, but representations of psychological forces existing within us all. Though we often don't perceive it, these archetypes are constantly at work in our lives. Take the hero archetype, for example. It represents the part of you that yearns for purpose, feels called to something greater, the part seeking to overcome obstacles, grow stronger, and reach a higher version of yourself. But this archetype doesn't exist in isolation. It's always tied to the shadow. As mentioned earlier, the shadow represents the repressed, hidden aspects of our being, your fears, weaknesses, and sometimes unexplored potential. In legends, the hero must face the shadow, often represented by a monster, enemy, or great trial, before evolving. Now bring this into real life. Have you ever known you needed to change, but felt something inside resisting? A moment when you had the opportunity to grow, but fear, doubt, or self-pity held you back. That's the internal struggle between the hero and the shadow playing out within you. The most common mistake people make is trying to repress the shadow instead of seeking to understand it. Jung believed true transformation happens when we integrate the shadow, not by rejecting it, but by learning from it. For example, if you struggle with self-criticism, instead of denying it or pretending it doesn't exist, Jung would invite you to reflect. Where does this self-doubt come from? Is it truly mine, or was it imposed by past experiences, social expectations, or others' opinions? What lessons lie within it? Perhaps within that doubt lies hidden strength, humility, introspection, or openness to new perspectives. When we start seeing our struggles not as weaknesses, but as signals from our unconscious, everything begins to change. But archetypes aren't limited to the hero and the shadow. Within us exist many other forces, each playing an essential role in shaping our identity. One of the most powerful is the anima and animus archetypes. Jung proposed that within every man lies a hidden feminine side, the anima, and within every woman, a hidden masculine side, the animus. These archetypes aren't about physical gender, but the balance of coexisting energies within us. The anima represents intuition, emotions, creativity, and deep connection to the unconscious. The animus symbolizes logic, organization, discipline, and assertiveness. When these forces are balanced, a person feels whole. But when they're imbalanced, internal conflict arises. For instance, a man denying his anima may struggle to express feelings, fearing vulnerability will be seen as weakness. Similarly, a woman rejecting her animus may feel insecure, making major decisions or taking charge of her life. However, when these energies are accepted, not ignored, they become a powerful source of strength. This leads to one of Jung's deepest conclusions. To discover who you truly are, you must accept all parts of yourself, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, known and unknown. Individuation isn't about becoming someone new, but integrating all the parts that make you whole. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, a crucial revelation tying everything together, and likely the most significant of all. The greatest obstacle to finding yourself lies not just in fear, insecurity, or external influences, but in something far deeper, how we perceive reality itself. In the next part, we'll uncover this. What you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself and could permanently transform your life. Throughout this journey, we've explored the hidden forces shaping your identity, the masks you wear, the shadow you repress, and the archetypes affecting your thoughts and behaviors. Now we must confront the deepest illusion of all, the illusion of the self. Most people live under the assumption that their identity is fixed, a unique, constant entity navigating through time, shaped by memories and experiences. But Jung, like other great thinkers and mystics, understood something fundamentally different. The self isn't static, but fluid, ever-changing and far vaster than we commonly believe. What if the version of yourself you see as real is just a small part of something far greater? What if the person you think you are is merely a manifestation of limitless consciousness that has evolved over centuries, carrying generations of accumulated wisdom and experiences? Jung explored this idea through the concept of the self, not the small, ego-conditioned self clinging to labels and fears, but the true self, the totality of who you are, beyond illusions of identity. This realization can be both liberating and terrifying, because it implies that everything you've believed about yourself, your fears, limitations, and self-narratives, isn't the full truth. They're temporary constructs of the mind. Here's the most powerful truth of all. You aren't just an isolated being moving through life. You're a vast, interconnected field of consciousness, imbued with ancestral wisdom, the depths of the unconscious, and transformative potential far greater than you imagine. But if this is true, why do we feel so limited? Why do we face suffering, doubt, and fear? The answer lies in the ego. The ego isn't your enemy. It's simply the part of your mind creating a sense of separation, the inner voice telling you, "This is who I am, and this isn't me." The ego erects barriers, sets limits, and keeps you tethered to old habits. While it serves a purpose, it's also the greatest obstacle on the path to self-knowledge. Because in reality, you aren't confined to a single identity. You're a being in constant evolution. When you stop clinging to the image of who you think you are, you open the door to infinite possibilities. But how do we achieve this? How do we move beyond the illusion of the self and step into the true fullness of your existence? Jung offered a guide, a path demanding courage, deep reflection, and the willingness to let go of everything you thought you knew about yourself. First step, accept the unknown. Most people fear the unknown because it means uncertainty, but it's precisely where growth happens. When you stop resisting the mysteries within and instead face them with curiosity, you begin seeing the world and yourself in a completely new way. Second, release attachment to labels. You aren't just your name, occupation, history, or personality. You're something far greater than any label. By letting go of fixed identities, you create space for something far grander to emerge. Third, listen to your unconscious. Your dreams, instincts, gut feelings, they aren't random. They're messages from yourself, guiding you toward wholeness. As you connect more deeply, you'll start recognizing patterns, signs, and synchronicities leading you to your true path. Finally, surrender to the process. Finding yourself isn't a fixed destination. It's a continuous journey, a progressive revelation of the deeper layers of truth. And here comes the ultimate revelation. You were never lost. The self you've been seeking has always been within you, waiting to be recognized. Now, the choice is yours. Will you keep living as an incomplete version of yourself, trapped in old fears and illusions? Or will you take the leap into the unknown, embracing your true, limitless being? Because true life doesn't begin until you find yourself, and now you know the path. But this journey doesn't have to be walked alone. Today, you can take the first step. Take a moment to reflect. What aspect of your shadow have you been avoiding? What mask are you ready to remove? Write in the comments a word or idea representing something you want to explore within yourself. Sharing it is the first step to freeing yourself from its control. If this video resonated with you, don't just stay inspired. Subscribe and hit the bell. Remember, authentic life doesn't begin until you find yourself. And you already know the path. Are you ready to walk it? See you in the next video. Until then, start listening to that inner voice calling you to be who you truly are. Thank you for watching.